I love this conversation. I'm having such a good time right now. I just want you guys to know that.
Welcome to the Miscellaneous Film Festival, the podcast for curiously curated films. I'm Jacin.
And I'm Christen.
And today we're speaking with friend of the show and filmmaker Aileen Sheedy. Hi, Aileen. Welcome to the show.
Hi. I'm stoked to be here.
Oh my gosh, we're so glad to have you. And really excited to talk about the 5 films you brought for us to talk about. These are movies close to your heart.
Yes, they are. I'm going to try and list them in order of when I saw them in my lifetime. So starting with the earliest one, we have The Last Unicorn.
Oh, yeah.
Newsies. St. Elmo's Fire, Once, and In the Mood for Love.
Hell yeah.
These are all really great movies. I'm kind of curious, you saw St. Elmo's Fire after Newsies, which they came out like 10 years apart.
Yeah. So Newsies is like a super early movie for me. I saw that when I was 12, I think, for the first time. I got really into it in middle school. All my friends and I were really into Newsies to like a scary degree in middle school. And then I saw St. Elmo's Fire in high school.
What was it about Newsies that really got you like looped into it that far?
I'm going to be real. It probably the cute boys.
I
was just going to say.
Probably the cute teenage boys.
Especially Christian Bale. Oh my God. He's gorgeous and he's so intense.
Oh my God. I was watching him and I was like, look at that hair. Like,
oh man, yeah.
Gorgeous.
What got me was in researching Newsies, was that this kind of came out just before the big boy band boom. Hit, like a year or two before that. We still had New Kids on the Block aging up, but still performing. And then this came along.
One of the Newsies actually was in a boy band. So yeah, I don't know, the guy with the eye patch, Kid Blank.
That's Trey Parker.
Yeah, Trey Parker, who's not Trey Parker. It's not the Trey Parker of like South Park. It's a different Trey Parker.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was in a band called EYC, which stood for Express Yourself Clearly, that had like maybe one album. But yeah,
Please
they were
tell
like
me
total.
That was a Christian boy band.
It might have been.
Oh no.
It might have been. I think I maybe have their CD. I don't totally know, but yeah, I'll say nothing about the quality of the music.
I'm going to look it up right now while we're talking.
That is so 90s too. Even just the band name. Oh.
Yeah, EYC.
It's interesting to me too, because apparently this was a massive flop. I know that I've heard about it for years and years, but I've never actually seen the thing. And I can see why. When did it come out? 92? I can see why it was a massive flop in 92. Like, we couldn't have been further away from labor disputes and any of that shit.
And movie musicals. Movie musicals had kind of phased out as a style. And it was just Jeffrey Katzenberg who kind of thought, oh, now's the time to do it. And I understand that production-wise as a gamble, whereas it hasn't been in vogue for a while. Maybe now is when we can kick it off again. And he'd had huge successes with animated musicals, with Beauty and the Beast and Little Mermaid, and brought in the songwriter from those 2 shows to work on Newsies.
Yeah, Alan Menken. Amazing.
But it wasn't time for live action.
Yeah, we had to give it another like 8 or 9 years.
Or I was kind of placing it in time in 1992. Wow, we're making a movie about 12 and 17-year-old boys running around smoking cigars and drinking beer and just dying to fight somebody.
Yeah. I mean, if you can believe it, there was a point in my life where I ran around yelling like, "Cheez-It, it's the Bulls!" in like a really bad like New York accent.
Oh, the accents were great. Even Christian Bale was doing a good job.
Oh, he was trying so hard.
He didn't know how to sing or dance. He
learned how for this movie. He also learned how to do like a lasso trick for the song Santa Fe that they ended up cutting out, which is such a bummer. You can see it in the deleted scenes, and it's actually quite cool. So I think they cut it for pacing or whatever. But like, yeah. He learned so much.
Yeah, the gorgeous intensity of Christian Bale, for sure. I can see that appealing to 13, 14, 15-year-old girls. I know it would have appealed to me if I'd seen it.
I want to give credit also to David Moscow, who played Davey in the show. I think anyone who talks about Newsies can't help but talk about Christian Bale because he was amazing and was given an awesome role with so much to do.
Yeah.
And that's his like straight man counterpart. David Moscow wasn't doing as much, but he brought in an amazing performance as well, and also had to learn to sing and dance, which he hadn't done before.
Yeah.
But he didn't have the hair. He did not have the hair.
Yeah, I didn't have the floppy.
Or the like slightly murderous stare that's going on with Christian Bale. It just looks very intense.
Yeah. Well, and it's definitely reached like cult classic status for sure. Like, I don't know a single like girl my age that hasn't seen this movie. Like,
Have you guys seen the musical, the stage musical?
I have.
That they adapted?
Yes,
yeah.
I went to go see it before it was on Broadway, actually, because I was in college in New York at the time, and they opened it at the Paper Mill Playhouse in New Jersey, and I like begged I didn't have a car, and so I begged my friend who had a car to drive us from like upstate New York down to Jersey to go see the show, and so I saw it before it moved to Broadway. It had Jeremy Jordan in it.
Wow.
I got to give him a hug after the show. It was super cool.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, because it was like this tiny little theater, and like, but yeah, it was super exciting when it like finally made the transition to Broadway, because like I feel like that's what I had been wanting like ever since I saw the movie. Like it was always like, oh yeah, everybody wants it to be on Broadway, and like it just didn't happen for about 10 years between when I saw it and when it finally started to like do previews and stuff.
What I was reading, given its cult following, a lot of schools and theater camps were basically watching the movie and transcribing the music and dialogue and putting on their own kind of pirate productions. And after a while, Disney finds out about all this stuff and legally makes a decision, because this has happened with other shows as well. They'll choose to ignore a lot of stuff that isn't affecting their bottom line. But what happened with Newsies is they didn't go around busting anybody. They realized, oh, we need to develop a proper script that we can license out and charge.
They were like, we can make money off of this.
Right, but they did the right thing that time and waited for there to be an audience or a market for this before they started developing a show that no one had asked for. Because originally this wasn't supposed to be a musical.
It wasn't.
Writers who put together were invested in the story of the Newsies.
Yeah, it was like a straight drama. I think you can still find the original script for it online.
The end result of the film, though, feels like it should be a Broadway production. It feels small enough, like it should be on stage. So it's a bit of a shock that like it started as a film. It feels like it was the other way around.
My smartass self was watching this thinking, man, this feels like an MCU TV show where it's all like fun and bright and we're just having a good time. And I'm watching, a lot of the subject matter, I think this should be DCEU. This should be really gritty.
That's what I love about it.
Maybe Christopher Nolan should direct this and be like, it's serious. Like, Joseph Pulitzer was going to fucking kill Christian Bale.
Yeah. But that's what I love
scary
about it, though. Like that, I feel like we forget how awful shit was a century ago, like those labor disputes were, dragging bosses out of their houses and beating them to death and like setting shit on fire and this was a real thing that actually happened. So like
two little kids.
Yeah. Well, and the movie actually aged a lot of them up. Like a lot of them were closer to like 13, 14, not like 17, 18.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And also the way it kind of, the ending of the movie is different from what actually happened, which was like they won the strike, but it wasn't that they like won. It was like they won the right to sell back any papers that they hadn't sold at the end of the day. That's like all that happened.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Well, and the end of the movie was changed for budgetary reasons. In the end, Christian Bale's character Jack Kelly was going to go down to the train station and ride off to Santa Fe to achieve his dream. And they realized, we didn't have enough money, didn't have enough time yet to go down to a train yard. You know what we'll do? We'll just have him circle the block and decide to come back and not fulfill his dream at all.
Yeah.
Because, brotherhood and unions.
At least they had, was it Roosevelt?
Yeah, Teddy Roosevelt, who just shows up out of nowhere, like Deus Ex Machina style.
Which is just... That's right. I love that. It was kind of sweet in its own weird way.
Yeah.
I gotta call out Marty Balafsky.
Oh,
who played Crutchy.
Yeah, he's so good.
You knew who I was talking about right away.
Yeah. Oh, I know the names of all of these actors, dude. I'm not kidding you when I tell you, like, I was on a Yahoo Groups email list for like 6 years, like basically from sixth grade all the way through the end of high school until it kind of died. That was like all about Newsies. Like all of my friends were like girls from the internet who liked Newsies. Like I have a Newsie name. It's like serious business over here.
Can you share your Newsie name, or is it private?
No, it's Tree.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
This is one reason I think that we get along so well. Like we both understand early fandom. which was a very obscure thing. But yeah, those Yahoo mailing lists, I love that that's a thing that you know about, because like I've never met anybody else in real life who knew about that.
Well, and I think that's one of the other reasons why this movie is like so important to me, is because it was really my very first like fandom experience, which is like kind of shaped the core of my personality and like my creative being. Like I don't know how to create without like being a fan first. Like almost everything I write is like an adaptation of something, or like it's like a weird vision of my life as if I'm writing fan fiction about my life, or like it's just so much of how I view the world.
Yeah, having known you for a while, that is 100% an accurate observation.
Have you written any fan fiction about Newsies?
I've not written for Newsies in quite a long time, but I did back in the day. I had a couple ones that never got finished that are kind of a bummer. There was a genre of Newsies fan fiction that was very popular that was like time travel. Like you're a girl from 2002 who ends up accidentally time traveling back to 1899.
Like Outlander?
Yeah, basically. And then like you show up on the Newsies doorstep and then all of them want to date you or whatever. Like
fan fiction.
This is a question as an outsider, I guess like I should ask. Is some of the appeal of Newsies that there's just so many of them?
Yeah, it kind of is. Because then all of your friends can each have one and you don't have to fight over anybody. Like
I love it. I love the democratic side of Newsies fandom.
Yeah. And they've all got
There's enough for
names.
all of us.
Like, you know, they're not obvious in the film, but they do all have names. A lot of them have developed like fanon personalities. So like if you read the fan fiction, they all kind of have similar personalities.
Can we transition that into Last Unicorn? I'm dying to talk about Last Unicorn.
Yes. I want to know Kristen's thoughts on The Last Unicorn, because you've been so excited about it.
It was also a movie from my childhood, and I actually really think it holds up, but I want to know what you think about it first.
It totally holds up, because I hadn't seen it in a long time, and I just rewatched it, and I was like, oh, dang. This is like so legit. You know, it's from 1982. There's a little cringe happening, but like overall, like it's so good. Like, and I feel like maybe that's due to it being adapted by the writer of the book. Like he also wrote the screenplay, so I think he really did a good job of like taking the best parts of the book. A lot of the quotes, like the most beautiful quotes about like love and regret and all of that stuff, is like straight from the book.
Yeah, those lines are crazy. I love like the majority of my review that I wrote for this, that I was going to discuss about this with you, is all about like, here are all the amazing fucking lines from this movie, because like,
I have them all written down too.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I was like, as I was watching, I was like, oh, this is like a thing I want to post on Instagram.
I will tell you, this is going to be kind of a recurring thing. It's one thing I always look for with any great movie. There's a stage version. There's a stage musical of The Last Unicorn that was written by Peter S. Beagle.
Oh, what? Oh my God. I feel like I know about most of the musicals based on things, but I didn't know about that one.
It hasn't made it to off-Broadway yet, I think.
Oh, it's new.
It was not that new. It was, it was written in 1988, actually.
Oh, wow.
Which
was
okay. Like only 6 years after the movie came out. Oh. So I don't know where that script is now, or if anyone's doing anything with it.
I want it. Bring it back. If anyone with the power to do that is listening, please, dear God.
Of all the 5 movies you picked, all of them, I think, have the potential to be adapted or have been adapted into other media and would still work. Mm-hmm. Last Unicorn would probably be the most challenging because of all the special effects. You would want the Jim Henson Company to get in on your production somehow and give you a full-size Manticore, even just for one scene.
Holy shit. And the Red Bull could be so cool. That could be so cool on stage.
I was thinking of Warhorse, but they had these giant like 2-man horse costumes that looked like they were made out of driftwood or found wood. I'm imagining a Red Bull that maybe has 3 or 4 people inside just storming onto the stage.
And it could be like a dance. It could be like a ballet almost. Like I feel like the scenes where the bull is chasing the unicorn have like such dance potential.
Either dancers in white with ribbon dancers in white as the unicorn's being chased into the waves, or ribbon dancers in red being like the flaming horde of his presence.
Holy shit.
Who do we know that does theater? Because now I want to make this happen.
I mean, I know a few. I've said no because I've never done any theater, and I don't have the brain space to get into it, but I want to get into it.
I wanted to comment on The Last Unicorn as it's interesting as an adaptation to film from a book, because the structure of the film I found doesn't really play the way a film would, especially because we get to our goal. Our goal is to get to Hagrid's castle, and we get there exactly halfway through the movie.
Yeah.
So that seems like that happened too soon. However, it's done for a reason.
And then it just grinds to a fucking halt.
Yeah, it grinds to a halt and gets so introspective. And I really appreciate how mature the movie is. I was kind of saying this movie's not necessarily for kids.
Yeah, it's really not.
Or it's been tweaked from the book to try and be for kids. And I'm sorry, someone has had so much caffeine. I defer to Christen.
Sorry, I've got like 10,000 things I want to say about it, because it's just, there's two parts about that. The story momentum grinds to a halt because we're moving from location to location. We're gathering characters. We're experiencing some super dark shit, like especially the harpy scene, I think is one of my favorite things ever. That is not kid movie territory. They even gave her like
she's got boobs, dude.
Got boobs. And like the tree that he gets tied to that he enchants, and then he's just between the boobs of the tree, and then the unicorn like disenchants the tree. You will not have her, hussy. I'm like, Jesus, this was meant for like 8-year-olds. Holy shit. And like they don't shy away from the death at all, but also like Peter S. Beagle, I think adapting it is exactly what gives it that weird sort of soft darkness that you get out of very rare and fucking potent fantasy stories. They don't shy away from your death sits in that cage and she hears you, you know. So, they don't shy away from like when Schmendrick turns her into a human. And
oh yeah, she's going through this whole
and just
mental breakdown
about mortality.
Yeah.
Mia Farrow does this thing. We've talked before when we were talking about Rosemary's Baby, that Mia Farrow's like wee-fish thing. She really leans into it, where there's strength and weakness in her voicing at the same time. And I think it carries that over even more from being a childhood kind of story to being something a little more graphic, where she feels death for the first time, and it causes her to grieve, you know, and go a little insane. And there's Molly like leaning over her going, what have you done? She'll trapped in a human body, she'll go insane. Like ideas like that are not, an 8-year-old's not going to be able to process that. But I love that. That's my favorite kind of fantasy story, because it's not, you're tackling ideas that are not articulatable in any other fashion.
Right.
That scene where we're introduced to Molly McGrew. And
my God.
She sees the unicorn for the first time. Like, I did not get that at all when I was 8. But the older I get when I rewatch it, the more it just makes me absolutely fucking sob.
Yeah.
In a way I can't quite articulate. Like, there's something about women growing older and expecting something that they don't get. I think in there that really just breaks your heart. And I adore that scene so much. Just the pain in her voice asking the unicorn where she's been. And then it would be the last unicorn in the world that comes to Molly McGrew. I just, I love it.
I love Molly so much. She's like such a great character.
I realize now that resonated with me as well, but I'd never stopped to think about what she's going through at the end when all the unicorns are freed from the ocean. And she was there to witness that.
Yeah, it always, that ending feels a little rushed to me every time I go through it. I wish they'd taken about 5-10 more minutes with it. It feels like they were trying to hit the exact 90-minute runtime. And the unicorns coming out of the waves is such a beautiful idea. Like, there's a lot of emotional resonance there. And her mortality being what saves Lear. Like, there's a lot of pieces in that I wish that they hadn't taken just 30 seconds to cover.
And,
you know?
And the unique thing about this versus a Disney movie is, in a Disney movie, Lear would have had some kind of redemption arc. He would have seen the error of his ways. This whole thing would have transformed him.
Yeah.
And in this, he goes down bitter and covetous all the way to the end.
Yeah, he wants to fucking. I love the king as a metaphor for depression. Looking at it as an adult, I'm like, he's looking for anything that makes him feel good, and what makes him feel good is making the most beautiful creature in existence miserable as shit. And like, it doesn't shy away from, like, he can't find joy or happiness in anything, and that never changes, you know.
Yeah. Well, and also just the fact that his selfishness is destroying the world.
Yeah.
He's taken all of the beautiful things from the world because it's the only thing that makes him feel kind of okay.
Yeah. Which is so fucked, actually. Yeah.
I look at a lot of 80s fantasies movies and see kind of the attitudes about, because these are ostensibly made for kids,
Yeah.
but not really.
Yeah.
The attitude being a reflection of like the rise of youth culture in the 60s and 70s,
Yeah.
and youth identity breaking away from the establishment and the parents.
Yes.
And that how that shifted through the 70s till we got into the 80s.
Yes.
Of now realizing, okay, this is what it means to be independent, and then transition into adulthood or taking the reins of your own autonomy, either through fantasy adventure or like in St. Elmo's Fire, like getting out of college and now being in adult relationships, being in adult situations, and still maybe having some teenage sensibilities. What? So St. Elmo's Fire this was also my first time seeing that movie.
Yeah.
And I love that I get to introduce you to so many things.
This is why I'm doing this podcast. Is somebody's like, you should watch this movie. I go, I'll try to find time for it. And now being slightly obligated, I'm like, okay, I'm getting to see things that I should have pursued in the first place. Like, I love Rob Lowe. I've tracked down a lot of Rob Lowe's early work, like Youngblood.
Yeah.
He did with Patrick Swayze. It's a hockey movie. Keanu Reeves just pops into it for like 5 minutes and then pops back out.
Oh my God. I love those 80s movies so much where you're just like, what? Who? Okay, hi.
It's kind of like Newsies, which like, how many little stars can we get in to bring collective fandoms together? But
St. Elmo's Fire was more deliberate, I think, though, in that. Because it was very specifically written for Brat Packy kind of.
Well, it was the movie that created the term Brat Pack, actually.
Was it?
Yeah, so there was an article written about this movie that was the first time that term was used.
I can 100% see that, because that's this is the only movie I had a little trouble with, because I'm like, I don't actually like, other than Mare Winningham, she's fucking great, but the rest of these people kind of suck, actually.
They're kind of all awful, which is I think maybe what I love about it. Anyway, sorry, go Jason.
I was just gonna say a fun fact about Mare Winningham. She went to a high school that specialized in theatrical productions and a segue into getting into Hollywood or onto Broadway. There she was like a standout, got the leads in almost everything, including The Sound of Music. And she also went to high school with Val Kilmer, who was her boyfriend at the time.
Wow.
Oh my God.
And I'm just like, good job, Val Kilmer, because Mare Winningham is awesome.
Yeah. It was on my short list of people to work with for a long time, because that just sort of, that natural sadness in her face is, it's really interesting to play with. She just always looks sorrowful.
Yeah.
Which I love.
You guys kind of touched on accurately that all of these characters are troubled. All these characters have flaws of their own that we get through. I was going to ask, out of all the characters, the main characters in the movie, was there anybody that you guys would date?
Oh, fuck no.
Oh, Jesus. Not now.
Exactly like Rob Lowe. So
yeah. I would have gone for Rob Lowe pretty hard when I was 22, but not now.
I feel like we have times in our lives that we tend to go for the very sad bad boy with the tragic past who's actually a piece of shit.
Yeah,
he was. What got me was at the end, he's the one who said, all right, first of all, why was Demi Moore blonde? But Rob Lowe was the one saving blonde Demi Moore when she's having kind of a nervous breakdown.
Yeah.
Well, whereas a few minutes before, he was kind of trying to force her into sex.
Yeah. Not even kind of like blatantly trying to. Yeah. And like, I did not buy that speech and him saving her at all. Guys like that do not do that shit.
And we might change this, because Aileen, I don't want to shit on a movie that was close to your heart.
Like, I mean, out of all the movies, this is the one I think is probably the most divisive. Like, I feel like people either really love it or really hate it. And I, like, sometimes when I watch it, I'm like, man, this movie's really bad. But, like, it's also really good. Like, it's...
Yeah, how would you champion it? And that's not a challenge. Like, it deserves... Every movie deserves to be appreciated for something. Oh, man, that didn't sound like a... that sounded like a backhanded way of saying it.
I mean, I didn't make the movie, so... but, like...
Joel Schumacher did.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, I mean, I think what it was for me was I probably just saw it at really like the right time. Like I saw it when I was in high school and like going into college, so I was like the age, and I felt like a person who was very, I felt like a bad person a lot, And I so and there was something about like seeing, and this is also I think the reason why like I really liked Girls when that was on too, but like there's something about like when you feel like a bad person and you see other people who are just being like awful, like it's a little bit cathartic, or like it's a way of like being seen maybe, and just being like, yeah, well, maybe I'm shitty, but also look at these people. Like,
well, Christen and I have talked in the past about movies and storytelling in general are a way to kind of test out ideas, test out feelings, kind of put yourself in a hypothetical situation of things that might hurt, things that might be scary.
Yeah.
And I don't know, did you feel at that time that sort of that transition from teenager to young adult that happens in college is also kind of an internal destruction and recreation of identity?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and for me, like, especially, like, I had a really, really hard time with that. Like, I had a really hard time going from college, or from high school to college, and then from a college to like being an adult. Like, I had sort of been raised my whole life to feel like, oh, you have to be good at school, you have to be good at high school so you can get into a good college, and then you have to be good at college so you can get a good job, you can graduate and get a good staple job that will support you for your life. And that was like kind of just my parents' outlook on life, and that was the way that like I had this path that I was on. And then I got to the end of college and I graduated and I got this software job, and I was like, cool, I did the thing that I was supposed to have been doing my whole life. Like, this is the thing and I don't like it. Like, I go to this job and I'm miserable. Like, I felt so lost because I was just like, I don't know what this is what I was supposed to do. Like, so what do I do now if this isn't the thing? If this isn't what I'm going to spend the rest of my life doing? Like, what am I supposed to do with myself now?
Yeah. That's, I mean, I'm pretty sure you've told me this before, but because I had a very similar time in my life, and a huge part of it was like, I want to make movies, but I don't dare say it out loud. Was that kind of the same for you, or was it more like a process of discovery?
I think probably more the second thing, because I didn't know that I wanted to make movies. I just never saw it as an option. It was such a big, like, foreign thing to me. It was like, I'm not from, California or New York or whatever. Like, I've never seen a movie get made. It's like, I loved movies as a kid and as a teenager and stuff, but like, it just never felt like, it just never crossed my mind that it could be something I could do. I didn't really kind of start to think about it seriously until after I had quit my job, and I was just like, well, I don't know what else to do. Like, digital cameras are a thing now, so I guess maybe I can try.
Was it really just, I don't know what else to do, that started you on that path?
It kind of was. It was kind of, I mean, I had done like these 48-hour film projects just for fun, because I had taken like video classes in college just because, like, for fun. And
so you were still drawn to it then?
Yeah, I was. I don't think I ever saw it as a viable career option.
I mean, I'm going to time travel back and meet your 20-year-old self and be like, Aileen, I feel the same way. Let's just fucking do it.
Yeah.
Let's just do it. What are we waiting for?
One thing in St. Elmo's Fire that I wanted to bring up, as a fan of 80s movies and kind of temperaments of the time, or having been a young man dating, was Emilio Estevez's arc in the movie, where he falls in love with Andy McDowell. Falls in love with Andy McDowell, who's a doctor at a hospital that they go to at the very beginning, and spends the whole movie trying to get her attention and trying to get her number to go on another date, to the point where at the end he drives all the way up to a mountain cabin that she's at with her boyfriend on a ski vacation, and he is obsessively intense, banging on the door, kind of demanding that she talk to him and answering why she won't date him. Yeah. And going to like the way movies were made at the time, the attitudes at the time, that would have come off as his devout love, how much he was really into this woman, and with all the stress and effort he was putting in, he should therefore get to earn her. And that doesn't play well today.
Isn't she impressed? How dare she not show up to this fake party that I threw entirely for her sake, even though she doesn't know me? Yeah.
having been a young man, I can see why that storyline still has some value today as a negative example, but also showing like how big feelings can be.
Mhm.
If you take away his bad choices and just look at what he's going through, he is going through a romantic obsession. He handled it very badly, but it is something that humans can go through. Any human can go through.
Yeah. And I think when we're young, especially, like, I mean, I've definitely felt that way. Like, I'd thankfully never had the guts to do anything about it, so it didn't get that embarrassing. But like,
right.
I felt those feelings. Like,
Yeah,
I could have driven in high school. I would have made all sorts of bad choices.
Yeah.
I would have driven to so many houses I shouldn't have driven to.
Yeah.
Well, and at the end, where she says, like, "Hey, you know what? Maybe in another world, this could work out."
No.
It's not like a definite no between us.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I realized, oh shit. My best friend watched this with me, and because she said, "Oh, I remember seeing that when I was 13, when it had just come out." And we're watching together. I was like, "No 13-year-old girl should see this without an older woman there saying, Addie McDowell is placating this psycho,
Yes.
so that he doesn't come back and do it again."
Yeah, and it's so interesting. It's the script is on his side, I think, but Andy McDowell plays it so uncomfortably, especially like right when he does that forced kiss just before he drives away. He's super proud of himself, but she like looks like
that was horrible,
crawl out of her skin, which is such an interesting. I don't think that anybody making the movie, other than maybe she, was aware of that. Which just, I mean, I'd feel the same way.
I feel like that's one of the things I do really love about this movie, like all the weird stuff in it aside, is like how hard the actors committed to this. Like they are so playing those roles so like raw, like so like Demi Moore especially, like I think about her character a lot, and just like how she's just so wild. She just doesn't know what to do with herself, and like she's like an explosion happening.
There were plans to make a TV spinoff kind of shortly after it was made.
I didn't know that. Oh my god.
I read on Wikipedia that many of the main cast from St. Elmo's Fire have expressed interest, if they can coordinate their schedules, into making a sideways sequel, or like a handoff sequel where it's their kids. Which, by the way, if all their kids are having these really toxic relationships together in 2025, maybe they're grandkids by now.
I feel like if they're gonna do that, they would do it with Breakfast Club, though. I feel like that's more primed for that kind of a sequel. You know what I mean?
I agree.
St. Elmo's Fire would be interesting though, because all of the characters are kind of shitty.
Yeah.
So, like,
if it gave some redemption arcs for them or lessons learned.
Like, are they still?
I kind of don't want to know. I feel like most of these characters would be dead by like 45, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
Like Rob Lowe is definitely not still
he's
alive.
Going to New York and he's not coming back, except in a box.
Overdosed like 20 years ago. Yeah.
I'm really keen to talk to you guys as independent filmmakers, both of you, about Once. This was my first time seeing it, but also the whole feel of Once is one of the more raw movies I've ever seen.
Yes.
It's so indie. It was made for a teeny budget too. I want to say it was like maybe like $250K.
And I was reading the director was using wide angle lenses from yards and yards away, so that they could do the scenes in public places or where they didn't have license or permits to film.
It's very guerrilla, very like doc style.
Right.
So familiar.
There were certain moments where they couldn't help it. Somebody noticed the camera. Yeah. Somebody in the background. There were no extras. These were just real people in the street. Particularly, there's a scene where what's the character name?
They don't have names.
They don't have names.
The two characters don't have names.
Girl.
Yeah.
It's guy and girl.
Yeah.
The scene where Marketa Orglova is listening to Glenn Hansard's song, and she's just walking down the street, and she's like walking out of a little shop, and the girls around the door of the shop are staring right in the camera. For that moment, it really did not feel like a movie at all. It felt like real life, or a music video.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things about it, is that it simultaneously makes me jealous and makes me miss film sets and makes me want to go back to making movies that way, and also it depicts the creative process in maybe the most honest way that I've ever seen, where like when you meld with somebody creatively that closely, where you feel like they just get you immediately because they're already there.
I think the sensibility of the people involved really speaks to that, because John Carney, the director, was in the same band as Glenn Hansard. They're both in the Frames.
Yeah.
And I love the Frames. I was watching this like, oh, this is cool. And then doing my little Google research for the podcast.
Yeah.
And it's made by folks in one of my favorite Irish bands. I don't know.
Yeah.
That was so cool.
Yeah, well, and that actually happened because I think originally he had written the role, or they had cast like Cillian Murphy to play the
That's right.
character,
That's right.
and then they were like, nah. But I mean, part of what I think makes it work is that like those two, I don't even want to call them actors because they're not actors. Like
Yeah.
They're both
Glenn and
professional
Marquetta,
musicians
they're
before doing this.
musicians,
Yeah.
and they knew each
Yeah.
other. Like they had a relationship. Like he was living with her family in like the Czech Republic when she was like 12. I mean, it's kind of weird if you think about it too hard, but there's actually a really great documentary about the two of them and like
I knew
what happened to this movie. I mean, you can tell that like it's still a very special relationship for them. Like and they still play music together. They're coming to Portland this year and I'm going to go see them. And I saw them a couple years ago. Yeah. Then it's fantastic. If you can get tickets, you should totally go. The Swell Season is what they're called.
And they actually won an Academy Award for Best Original Song for that song, Falling Slowly.
Deservedly. I mean, I think that's one of my favorite, like that scene, especially when they first play it together and she's just kind of feeling it out on the piano as he's like walking her through all the key changes and everything. Like it feels, not like a movie. It feels organic and genuine and real. It reminds me of Call Me by Your Name a little bit, and that there were insane budget.
Yeah.
You can feel it, but there's also so much chemistry and like the casting works perfectly.
Yeah, this was the movie that made me want to start making movies. It was,
really?
Yeah, it was like I watched it and it was the first time I thought like I wish I had made that movie.
Yeah. Yeah, it is 100% not something you can. I mean, I think you and I both have worked on a lot of film sets like that where you have all the hopes in the world, the script is good, but it's not quite clicking the way that like once clicks perfectly, and it's just that everything lined up for them just right. It's gorgeous for that reason, but also I still hate it a little bit. It's so hard to get that.
The jealousy is real.
I know.
What was the part of Once that sparked your inspiration?
I mean, I think it's just the whole development of the relationship. Like for me was a big thing because I love romances that don't have like a happy ending or like a neat and tidy ending. I love movies where people who love each other have to leave each other for the greater good or for their own personal good or whatever. But like, something I've just always been drawn to sort of like that sad, that the world is maybe not always the way you want it to be sort of a thing. And I think that's in Last Unicorn. That's in in Peter Pan and like things like that where it's
in
just
the
like,
mood for love too.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I think that I actually enjoy about this movie most is that they're sort of more creative soulmates than romantic soulmates.
That shines through for sure.
I mean, as creatives, they click together so well that dating might have fucked that up anyway, and that's you don't see that depicted a lot, but it's a choice I've made before.
I think part of it too is this is one of the first movies that I saw where it was kind of like there are things that are more important than romance. Like the romance is a big part of it, but like ultimately the thing that's more important is like the friendship.
And like we record this piece together that is a valuable and an important thing, and just as important as if we'd fucked, maybe even more so arguably. And I wish more stories put an emphasis on that. Because like, creativity, the best.
This is one of the first movies that I saw where it was subtle. Like it's not, there's so much that's unsaid in this movie that's like, there's so much subtext to what's happening. And I don't know if I had ever seen a movie like that before.
It's so hard to write something like that too. It's hard to know.
The script for this movie is very bad. I have a copy of the script that I found online, and it's like, first of all, the ending is completely different. Like she goes to the airport and they like kiss at the airport, and like it's terrible, bad. Like there's all these like placeholders for where the songs are and stuff like that. But like it's just, I mean, I know we're gonna get into talking about In the Mood for Love, but like that movie didn't even have a script. Kind of, I'm like, that's really scary to me as like a filmmaker because I'm like, shit. It seems like the kind of movies I want to make like don't have scripts, but you also can't just be like, hey guys, let's make a movie without a script. Like, I mean, Kar-wai can do it, but I can't do it.
There's also Once and In the Mood for Love are the two. If you ask most filmmakers, I think, in me and Eileen's age group, those are usually the two. I don't think I know an indie filmmaker who doesn't say In the Mood for Love made me want to make movies. So, I mean, is that one of the reasons why it's on your list, Eileen?
Um, well, it is the most recent one that I've seen. I actually only saw it for the first time maybe eight years ago. So
Yeah.
I didn't see it until my partner showed it to me. And we had talked about like Once and like the Before trilogy and all these other movies I loved, and he was like, "How have you not seen In the Mood for Love? Like this is like the perfect movie for you." It's also like it's one of the few movies that I've seen that's like, so I'm half Chinese. And my mom is from Hong Kong. I don't watch a lot of like Chinese movies, but this is
Yeah.
like one of the few that I just have really loved. And it feels like there's something about watching, particularly people speaking like Cantonese, that feels very like home for me, because that's just like, I don't understand it, I don't speak it, but it's like it's a very comforting sound to me.
Does your mom
Oh,
speak it
cool.
a lot?
She does. She mostly speaks with her sisters, but yeah, there's something about this movie that just feels very like comforting and like of my culture. Like even just like because it's also like, it's set in the 60s, and that was the time that she was living there and growing up there, and like hearing her tell me about these tiny apartments that she lived in with, her eight
Right,
sisters and her
right.
grandmother, and like, so the space, like the setting of the apartment is like very, something about that, it feels very familiar to me. And just like,
Yeah.
you go down the stairs and there's like a noodle shop outside and everything's
Yeah.
loud and it's like busy, and so yeah, it's just like it feels very familiar
Familiar.
to me in a way, that not a lot of other movies, and particularly familiar with the part of me that is Chinese,
Hmm.
that I often don't get to acknowledge or see represented very much.
Yeah, that's fascinating to me because like that sense of claustrophobia that you
Mm-hmm.
get from like they're constantly shooting, like the screen gets very narrow of what actually has any motion or people in it. It's often walls and doorways, and
Mm-hmm.
then you get those tiny little shots of like her hand on a door jamb or something, the pail that she carries, like those very slow motion, just kind of very tight and very close in shots. And
Mm-hmm.
it creates that sense of claustrophobia, and then they make that choice on top of it of not letting you see their spouses very clearly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like it's always shot around doorways, you hear voices and like you see little bits and pieces and you get senses of them, but never nearly as clearly as the two leads.
Do they
Mm-hmm.
actually ever
I
show?
I'm
don't
not
think you
'Cause
ever
those
see
are just
them.
actors
Yeah.
portraying them. Well, that was the big artistic choice of this movie,
Yeah.
which really impressed me when I realized what was happening, that it was going to be the whole of the movie, was that
Hmm.
our two main characters are each married to someone else, and it turns out
Mm-hmm.
their spouses are likely cheating with one another
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
because they're always out of town, they're never home, or they work opposing schedules,
Yeah.
so they don't see one another. And that distance may have been kind of what gave their spouses the opportunity to cheat or the inspiration to
Yeah.
cheat. And in the meantime, we're watching our main characters who are experiencing missing their spouses,
Hmm.
meeting one another, commiserating, and realizing an affair might be happening.
Yeah.
And then they choose to speculate
Yeah.
about how it happened, what happened, and then start doing hypothetical reenactments of their
That
Mm-hmm.
seems
spouses
so
meeting,
nuts.
of their
Yeah.
spouses deciding to have an affair. And I mean, we talked about adaptations with all of these different movies. This movie I thought would be a great stage play if it was just
Mm-hmm.
two main characters and maybe three or four additional like supporting cast.
Yeah.
But watching them do these little scenelets
Yeah.
over and over and never knowing if they are having an affair themselves, which is also ambiguous
Yeah.
in
Mm-hmm.
the movie, or if they are continuing to reenact what they think might have happened or might be happening with their proper spouses. And this movie, I mean, we talked about, also speaks to a different kind of connection, a different kind of perhaps love. I don't know that these two characters are falling in love. What was your impression, Eileen?
What is love? Maybe don't
Oh.
hurt me, but um, I don't. Yeah, I mean, I do. I think it depends what you mean by that. Like, I do think they are having a very deep connection that is not understood by anybody except for them.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's love, but it's so fraught with like their baggage
Yeah.
because of how this relationship started and where it's coming from. Can they truly like love each other in like a pure and healthy way? No, I
Yeah.
don't think so. Like,
Mm-mm.
Yeah. It's always going to be the shadows of their spouses are going to be over everything.
Yeah.
yeah.
I was also sensitive to kind of the time and place the movie was set and how that affected things. Noticing like their conversations with one another, their developing friendship or just trauma bonding also had to be handled very delicately with all their neighbors so close by, because they didn't ever want to present the appearance that they were having an affair. And I found that juxtaposition tense and dramatically interesting, that their spouses, as far as we know, are going out, traveling internationally, having what seems like a wonderful affair.
Yeah.
And these two characters are having to hide their friendship.
Yeah, and it's so beautiful. I mean, it's just a
Oh my
visually like
goodness.
one of the most stunning movies I've ever seen. The colors and the composition, and like
those are the parts too that get stolen and parodied and all that the most often. I think those slow motion shots of just walking up and down stairs. And
I was just overwhelmed by everyone's dresses.
Yeah. Oh my God.
It was dressed so beautifully.
I have a friend who, when we watched this movie together, he's like a kind of like a graphic designer. He was like, I want to make a poster that's just squares of every single one of her dresses. It's just like a pattern from each dress. And I was like, please, he hasn't done it. And I kind of want to take the idea and do it, because I think that would just be like no context, just because I think there's like 26 of them or something. There's like an insane amount of dresses that she has.
Well, not just her, but all the women in the movie.
Yeah.
Have just like perfectly fitted. Yeah, they're gorgeous.
Eileen, if you would describe your filmmaking process, what kind of things characterize an Aileen Sheedy production?
Oh boy.
Everything is based on The Last Unicorn.
Yeah. I just want to write dialogue that's as good as the dialogue in The Last Unicorn.
Seriously.
I mean, I actually do like dialogue I would say is pretty key. I do like to collaborate a lot. And so I like to work with people I've worked with before. I like to get a lot of input. Like I would rather hire someone who's good at their job and like let them do their job than try and micromanage everything. But like I do also really like to collaborate with actors very heavily. I think that casting is super crucial, and casting the right person. Like you might as well not make the movie if you can't cast the right person. But also being able to let them, work with the characters and improv and do stuff like that. I'm pretty big fan of.
You're also a very calming presence. Like you are. It's what makes you so good at like doing the AD work and that sort of thing. Like you are somebody that you feel like is always in control. I think even if you don't feel in control, that's how you come across on a film set. So.
I don't know if I've said this to you before. I've definitely said it to other people before, but it's like, because people tell me that a lot. Like the calm is like the word that people use to describe me probably most often. Like when I'm working, which I think is funny because like I'm always freaking out, and it's like kind of like the Hulk thing. Like I'm always angry. It's like no, I'm actually I'm always freaking out constantly, and it just like I just deal with it by not showing it. But, like,
it's like the duck thing. Ducks are like gliding across the surface, but they're like they're like paddling like crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is.
It's invaluable on a film set though, because the stresses are already there. You don't want a crew member who is freaking the fuck out.
Yeah, you especially don't want a director who's freaking the fuck out.
It's good to have someone in the lead, just keeping everything copacetic.
Yeah. It's hard though. I mean, I have lost it a couple times.
Really?
I was just on, but I was the whole crew. There was like a crazy moment where the whole crew like ran into this room and started yelling at each other because like shit was just going so crazy. But like, yeah, I mean, my worst moment as a director on set was on The Legend of Stella, where it was like we were on like hour 12. We were like going into overtime. It was like nights, and like we had to do a take again, and the DP, who was my partner, which was also awful. I was like so terrible to him, but like he was like, okay, why do we have to go again? And I was like, it's not good. I yelled that in front of like the entire crew, and I've like never regretted anything more in my life. I felt so bad about it.
I'm sure it's for great art. I'm not familiar with The Legend of Stella. What was that production?
It was a short film that I did 2020 now. Well, it came out we shot it in probably 2018, 2019.
That sounds about right.
But yeah, it's like a gamer rom-com sort of. Cool. Yeah, the premise of it is like this guy is a little bit too addicted to his VR gaming and is not spending time with his wife. So she essentially kidnaps him and puts him in like an escape room kind of situation where he has to like fight all these like these people that she met at a bar that have like come to help her and like prove how much he loves her.
I remember the effects being really good on it too. Like I haven't watched it since you guys made it, but I remember being like, "Damn, you guys are getting really good at this."
We had like fight choreography, which was the first time we'd done anything like that, and so that was kind of stressing me out. It turns out it's really hard to shoot fight scenes. I just want to shoot people talking.
Well, next thing I was going to ask was what kind of projects you have coming up. Like, what new things are you working on?
Ooh, personal projects. I don't have a lot of film stuff. I've actually been like writing poetry. I have some stuff I have out on like submission. And I'm trying to write a novel at the moment.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's ambitious.
It's not going super well, to be honest with you. It's hard when I have to drop it for a month to go work on a movie. But yeah, I've had a hard time working on my own personal film projects just because it's expensive. I mean, I'm at the point in my career now where I don't feel comfortable not paying people. I can't just ask my friends to work for me for free anymore.
Yeah.
But even with a small crew, and if you're just shooting for a couple days, it's still like thousands of dollars to give people like a decent rate and feed everybody and stuff like that. And so it's been a little bit hard to feel like I have anything that's worth spending money on.
Especially
that sounds terrible.
Film.
But like, yeah, it's like if I'm going to drop money on making a short or something, I really have to feel like it's worth it. I have a couple little things I'm writing to maybe try and send to competitions or programs where they fund your movie for you, but we'll see.
That's what
I have been working on some movies that are coming out hopefully this year, I think, that are pretty exciting.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
I do. Yeah. So when I'm on set, I'm primarily a script supervisor now. But I did a feature last year called Paradise Records. That was kind of Kevin Smith was like a producer on it and the editor. He was friends. It was directed by Logic, who's a rapper. I don't know if you guys, but he's super cool dude. Yeah, so it was like just a comedy about a record store. It was really fun. So I think that's coming out hopefully this year. I did produce a feature a couple years ago called Freedom, Wisconsin that hopefully is going to be having distribution at some point. It's like a friendship, little coming of age kind of
nice.
Quirky comedy. And then I did a little bit of work on a show called Criminal that's going to be on Amazon Prime, I think also this year.
Is that like true crime or?
It is based on a graphic Novel by Ed Brubaker. I don't know if you know.
Yeah. The guy who wrote Winter Soldier.
Mm-hmm.
My 10,000
like
Coincidences.
The Batman and all sorts of stuff. He's super cool. Really nice guy. I didn't do a whole ton of work on it. I was just doing like second unit stuff, but I'm excited to see it. I checked the graphic novel out from the library and it was cool. So it was interesting as a person who's like interested in adaptations. It was really cool to see how they adapted that from the graphic novel to like what we shot.
That sounds so cool. I look forward to checking out this stuff. Is there someplace we can see these? I guess some of the feature films, we have to wait for them to come out in theaters or on streaming. But where can listeners find out more about your work?
I do have a website. It's just my name, AileenSheedy.com. And that has, it has a list of all the things I've worked on. It's kind of like my resume. So I do have links to things if they're out that are on there. And then, the music videos and stuff that I've worked on and my photography it's all on there. So
that's cool. We'll put a link to that in the description. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us.
Thanks. Yeah. This was super, super fun. I love this.
I really appreciate it. This was great.
I was looking forward to it because you're one of my favorite people in the world too, Aileen. So I knew that we'd have a good time talking about movies.
Yeah, I was excited. And Jacin, it's been so great to chat with you too. Like I think we met maybe once briefly, but like
stop, you're making me blush.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate that you took the time to watch all these movies that I love and
it was a thrill.
Research them and
it's my favorite thing to do. And for these 5 movies, it was an absolute joy. Thank you again so much for recommending them. Everyone who's listening, please check out Once, In the Mood for Love, St. Elmo's Fire, The Last Unicorn, and Newsies. If you haven't seen it yet, come on, check it out.
You somehow haven't seen it.
Yeah, and otherwise, we'll see you all next time. Thanks for listening. Cheers.
Woo!
Bye.
I'm going to stop recording. So that I'm going to
Look
stop
how cute.
recording so that
Okay.
there's no more incriminating evidence. That's
Yeah.
who all have you killed? Who all have you killed before I stop?
Oh
But
man,
no.
haven't got there yet. There's a couple of people on the list.
Oh,
though.
Have you stopped recording?